In this tutorial, we're going to connect our sales application with a MySQL database. Now, through the sales waterline interface, you can interact with whatever database you want. In this case, we're going to be using MySQL. So I'm going to be assuming that you have installed MySQL along with the MySQL Workbench, a tool that they provide that allows you to interact with your database. It makes it really easy to create new databases, create new users, and all of that without having to interact through the command line. So opening up MySQL Workbench, we're going to connect to the local instance and connect. It's going to ask for our root password. So I'm just going to save that in the vault so I don't have to type it anymore. And we've connected to our database server. So the first thing we need to do is create a new database, or what MySQL calls a schema. We click this little stack of databases, and we're going to create a new schema, and I'm just going to be boring. I'm going to call it Node Financial, just like I've named my application. So we're going to apply. It's going to present the SQL that's going to be injected into our database to create the schema, and apply once again to execute that. So now, if you'll notice down here on the left, we have Node Financial, our new schema. So the only other thing we're going to need to do in MySQL Workbench is create a new user for our database to use, because you don't want to use the root user when you're interacting with a database through an application. So we're going to open up users and privileges here and add a new account. I'm going to be boring, and again, I'm going to call him Node Financial. Node Financial is the user, Node Financial is the name of the database, and my password here is going to be "this is my password," all one word. And again, "this is my password" to confirm. Don't need to worry about account limits, don't need to worry about administrative roles. We don't want him to be able to edit anything database wide, but within a schema, we do want him to have permissions here on the Node Financial database. So we're going to select a schema, Node Financial, and we need to add some permissions now. So the permissions we want to add are select, insert, update, and delete. And then those are for individual objects. And then for tables, we want him to be able to create, alter, create indexes, and drop tables to be able to add and delete tables and add columns and things like that. And finally, under other rights, we may want the ability to create temporary tables or lock tables. So once we have all of those permissions, if you want to make it easy, just check them all, that's fine. But those are the permissions that we're going to need, and then click apply. And now we have the Node Financial user able to log in from any host with privileges on that Node Financial database. Now we're going to head over to WebStorm and configure our application to use that connection. So open up WebStorm to your application, and under config, we're going to look at connections. And here under config connections, we've got a whole list, and this is the interface with the waterline, which is sales's database middleware. So we can look at this and we can see the default here, local disk DB. This is for development only. It's going to just create its own database on your local disk. And that's fine, but we want to go better than that. We want to do MySQL Server. And this is called some MySQL Server. We can change that name to Node Financial MySQL. Using the adapter MySQL, sales MySQL, we're going to do the host, localhost, because that's where our database is stored. The user is Node Financial. That's the name of that user we created. The password, this is my password. And the database is that schema called Node Financial. So if you named your database or your user something different, you're going to want to change that. Notice down below we also have MongoDB, PostgreSQL, different adapters to connect to different servers. So now, after we've edited this connection file, we need to also edit the models. And models is what tells Sales which application to use or which adapter to use to connect to the database. So we called our model Node Financial MySQL. I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to paste that right here under connection. And that, once again, that tells Sales that when I connect to a database, when I want to do something with a database, this is the database connection that I should use. And then finally, we want to uncomment this line at the bottom for migrate alter. What migrate alter allows you to do is it tells Sales that it is able to edit your database. That's those permissions that we gave it to add and drop and delete the schema. Because as we're doing development, we don't want to have to hop over into MySQL Workbench to edit the table, to add tables, to add all of the things that we need inside of our database. Now, this migrate alter option is only available in a development environment. Once we push it into a production environment, it's going to change automatically to a different setting called migrate safe, where Sales will not attempt to modify the structure of the database. Obviously, you can still insert and delete records in the database, but without the ability to modify the structure of the database, only its contents. The last thing we need to do to have Sales ready to go for working with our MySQL database is install. Back here in connections, we told it to use the adapter Sales MySQL. Well, that's not installed by default. So let's open up a terminal. That opens that window down at the bottom inside of our application. And now we need to tell Sales to add a new dependency. So we want to type here npm install to install a new package, -- save tells it to save this new package or this new module as a dependency, and then we'll add Sales MySQL. And hit return. That will install Sales MySQL in our applications directory and save it as a dependency. So now if we scroll down and look at package.json, right at the bottom here, you see a new line that is Sales MySQL and then the version number of that dependency. Now the last thing we need to do after we make any significant changes is open up GitHub, and we're going to commit any changes that we made. So first we can check out the changes. We can see we've deleted these old lines and added our new ones with user, host, password, and database. And we've changed the name of the adapter. We've added our new models information. And then finally, we've added new lines here for Sales MySQL. So now we're going to commit and we're going to say add MySQL database connection as our little commit message. And commit to master. Don't forget to sync the changes. And once it's done syncing, we now have a full-fledged database-driven application that's going to connect automatically with our MySQL database.